Hello everyone. Alright, this is the testing video for our test harness for the changes to the 3UZ brand new bolt harness. So we're going to go through a full test procedure like it was a customer's harness. First thing we're going to do is obviously we're going to go through and show you what it looks like underneath. Obviously brand new, all fully bolt twisted, etc. Do that now, we'll come back in a second. Okay, so that's what it looks like all underneath, how it's built. Right, so starting off, as per the other ones, you've got the main section that comes inside the vehicle with the grommet over there. So you've got your ECU, you've got your 3 plugs over there that plug into the main harness. You've got your 2 plugs over there that plug into the body section, which basically comes around here and goes to the fuse box itself. Then you've got your section which comes off the main harness and plugs into your fuse box over there. All these plugs are different sizes, so you can't plug the wrong one into the wrong section. You've then got your 2 what I call customer plugs, and obviously it's a 9-pin and a 6-pin. The 6-pin only has your OBD2 plug in there, and your 9-pin we're going to go through in a minute because it always comes with a welcome pack to tell you exactly what's what and how to connect what to where. And the last thing on this body plug is your pedal plug over here. In this particular case, we've got the pedal harness ready to adapt. Obviously at this stage, this wasn't built for a particular customer, so we don't know what pedal they're going to have, whether they want us to supply. So we can obviously supply pedals as well. And obviously this harness will come with an ECU that's already been remapped. We can do an exchange if you have an existing ECU, etc. We can all be discussed at the time when someone is interested in purchasing it. Right, so to start off with, let's go through the harness, where everything is situated, how it routes and how it goes. So obviously this is external. We haven't sealed down the grommet yet, because obviously when the customer puts it inside their car, they'll decide where best the grommet is going to be, and once they're happy they can then shrink that down. Okay, so coming up to here, you've got your T-piece molded boot over here. Out this side over here, you've got an earth which goes down to a 6mm bolt over there. You'll see the other side, there's another earth that comes out of this section on the front here, again held in with that 6mm bolt, so those 2 earths going into there. Coming down here, your first one that breaks out coming forward is going to be your ignition 7 or coil 7. Coming down forward, you've then got another branch out there which goes to your cam sensor on your left bank. You've got your ignition 5 or coil 5, ignition 3, coil 3. Everything is labeled up. So let me just see if I can get just enough light so you can see. So again, no getting things mixed up there. Coming further down, it's then going to break out here at the front. What breaks out here is you've got your oil control valve, you've got your ignition 1, and then going down here, you've got your front cam sensor over there. Okay. Now it carries on down here, and again, you've got your 2 little plastic holders that go there, so the harness can strap down into there to keep it away from everything, especially if you've got a fan belt, etc. with the AC over there. Then it's going to come down and it breaks out here again, and you've got 3 sections here. You've got your oil and you've got your crank. They go through this hole, through there. There's your crank sensor. There's your oil pressure switch over there. Now this is a LS430. If it's like a GS430, you'll have the rear facing oil filter housing. You'll just bring the oil filter, oil pressure switch out here and then plug it in directly there. You've got your lambda sensor, which also goes through there and comes out there and goes along here, and obviously fits to your lambda sensor there. They usually come out there, but we changed it so that you could have the wiring away from the exhaust, because a lot of times when you guys do swaps, you don't end up putting all the heat shields in there. There's another heat shield that's supposed to bolt over here, which is supposed to hide the lambda sensor wiring through there. Again, those tend to disappear, so much easier just to throw this like this. It's away from the exhaust, everything is fine. Okay, so that's that side done. We're going to go over to the other side now. So again, it's going to come around here. Coming out of here, you've got your sub harness. That's your one that's going underneath to your 2 knock sensors and your starter motor. So that's that one over there. Coming out there, you've got your injector harness. This is one of the newest things, and this goes underneath the inlet manifold. It P-clamps on there, and then all your injectors and everything come out of here. And same on the other side. And we do have a whole video on how to install that, so please feel free to have a look at that. Moving along, coming to your next breakout, you've got your earth that's coming around there. Again, 6mm bolt there to bolt that to the cylinder head. Out the other side, you've got coil 8 or ignition 8. Coming further along, you've got another breakout here. That's going to be for your cam sensor on your right bank. You're going to have ignition 6 and ignition 4. That's those 2. Coming a bit further along, it's going to break out again. You've got ignition 2 over here. You've got your coolant temp sensor over there. You've got your single wire temp, which can be put into a temp sensor over there, which is a little bolt underneath the original one for the ECU. You've also got your oil control valve for this side over here. We've got your mass airflow sensor, which comes out over there as well. And then finally, you've got your throttle plug over there. So that'll depend on which throttle you're gonna go with. But in this case, we've done it for a 5-speed, so that's all that's there. Coming down here, you then have your little breakout over there, and it goes off to your alternator DTM plug, which then has a little sub harness that goes into your alternator of choice. And then coming down here, you've got your lambda sensor over there. So obviously part of the remap, we remap out the secondary lambdas, so it's only the primary ones that you actually need to fit as part of this harness over there. Right, so that's the harness, that's how it goes on the engine, that's where all the little bits and bobs go. So that's done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back to here and we're going to go through the 9-pin plug that you've got. Now obviously all of our harnesses do come with a welcome pack like that. It does tell you exactly the wire color, what its name is, and how you connect it, the description of what it is and how it's connected. I'm going to quickly run through them now for you. So main ones, you've got a 14 gauge red wire. That's going to be your permanent 12 volt supply. It needs to be permanent because the ECU has a memory and it stores codes. If you connect that to an ignition feed, you're going to keep resetting the ECU. Diagnostics is going to become a nightmare to carry out. Okay. Next up, you've got black with the yellow. That's your start signal. So it's just a 12 volt start signal. It's only triggering a relay. So again, it doesn't need to be a fancy thick wire. It's not actually going to the starter motor itself. That's all taken care of as part of the harness. Next up, we've got your yellow green. So this is connected to that single wire temp that we showed you on the other side of the engine. So whatever temp sensor you need to fit for your vehicle, or if you don't, tuck it away, but it's there if you need it. All right. Next up is going to be gray. So I've got it down here. That's going to be your fuel pump 12 volts. So that is controlled via the ECU. The ECU does control the fuel pump. I do have a video on fuel systems and how they work, so you can get some more detail about that. All right. Yellow red is your check engine light. So we've got it hooked up to our dash over here so we can see the check engine light in the corner to make sure that wire is correct. You do also have an LED in your fuse box. That is your check engine light. Again, we put that in there so you guys could basically get the engine started just by connecting 4 wires, and you'd still have a check engine light to make sure that everything is working and is correct. Okay. Next up, we've got yellow. Now that is a tacho signal, tachometer, rev counter, whatever you want to call it. And again, we've got that hooked up to our dash. So again, we can actually see that we're getting a rev signal through the yellow wire as we should do. Next up, we've got black red. That's your ignition 12 volts. So that's what's going to turn the system on. You can take that from your key barrel, same as your starter signal. The only thing to be careful of is if you are doing it from a key barrel, make sure you connect that to ignition, not accessory feed. On key barrels, accessory cuts off when you go over to start and crank. So always test to make sure that it is actually an ignition feed and not an accessory feed. All right. Next up, we've got pink and blue over here. That's your alternator light. It's a ground. So you'll see we've connected up to LEDs over there, just so you can actually see the lights working over there. And last but not least, we've got yellow, black. That's oil pressure. Again, a ground. You'll see it's connected up there. The power that I'm giving it is straight from the battery, so that's why it's on, because obviously the oil pressure switch is earthed out all the time, that it's not got any pressure. Okay, when you put the ignition on, the other LED will come on there. Okay, so that's the only plug you've got to connect. Your pedal's already sorted out. You just plug it in and you'll plug it into the pedal of your choice. We'll wire it all up for you, whether we supply the pedal, whether you have another pedal, etc. Just let us know. And then, like I said, the 6-pin plug here is literally just your OBD2 connector, so you can run diagnostics via OBD2, live data, the whole 9 yards. All right, so moving on, what are we going to test? Okay, so on our list here, we've got dash lights, and what I mean by that is like your check engine light, your oil light, your alternator light. Make sure all of that is working. OBD2, obviously we're going to plug into the tech stream, or we already have. We're going to make sure that it picks up that it's an LS430, which is this particular ECU here, and that's all working okay and giving us live data. We're going to use the tech stream device to activate the fuel pump via the ECU, just to make sure that's all working. Once we've done that, then we're actually going to physically start the engine up. What we're going to be looking to test is drive-by-wire. So I've got a temporary pedal over here. This is just my test pedal. All right, so we'll make sure that that's working. We're going to go through and test the VVT-i solenoids. So we're going to use the diagnostics machine to test the VVT-i solenoids. That's these oil control valves over here. What it's basically going to do is retard the cam. It's going to make it sound like a very lumpy cammed engine. So you'll hear the note change when I actually test it on the machine there. Then next up, we're going to look at the tach. So we're going to make sure the tach signal's coming through when the engine's running, so we know that it's all working correct. Then I'm going to go around and I'm going to unplug all the injectors one by one. They're not fully clipped in, they're just sort of loose fitting on there. So I'm going to unplug them one by one so you can actually hear each cylinder misfiring as we go around. So that's how we're going to test the injectors and coils. Starter is relatively straightforward. Obviously, if it starts, the starter works. ACIS, now that's this little valve at the back here. So effectively what I'm going to do is, as I start up the engine, we're going to basically, I'm going to hold the camera here, and literally you're going to see that this valve is going to move closed after a few seconds of it starting. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to come back and we're going to check all the codes. Because this has been remapped for a manual, you can see we've got absolutely no gearbox wires here whatsoever. There's nothing funny attached to there, and you'll see we have no codes for any gearbox faults whatsoever. Okay, so that's basically it. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to put the ignition on. We'll start with the lights and work our way from there. So nice and simple, black with a red tracer, plug it into 12 volts. You hear the relays clicking. We've got LED coming on there for check engine light. We've got check engine light coming on there, so we know that that wire is correct. And what we're going to do now is go over to the OBD2 machine. Now I'm just going to go into function, systems. Let me try that again. I'm going to go into function, system select, and you'll see there LS430. I'm going to go into engine and ECT, electronically controlled transmission. Okay, once we're in there, we're going to go into data list, and you're going to see all the live data coming through. So we've got 31 degrees coolant, 15 degrees air temp, 15% throttle, idle signal on, etc, etc. So definitely getting live data through there. So moving on, we're going to test the fuel pump. So we're going to go into active test. This will be pretty similar when we test oil control valves. Now you see fuel pump relay and fuel pump. Watch the video about the fuel pump systems. You'll understand why there's two of those and what the reasoning is for that. Okay, so we're going to go and test fuel pump. Now as soon as I press this little arrow, you're going to hear the relay click on. Just going to go again. Okay, so ECU is controlling the fuel pump, all happy with that, no dramas there. Right, so moving on, I'm just going to show you the drive-by-wire. So what you'll notice is when you first put the ignition on, you're going to get no humming from the throttle. So anybody who's worked with a drive-by-wire, you know they always hum. But when you first turn it on, no humming. The second that I move the pedal, and you're going to hear. So now that I've moved the pedal, you can hear the hum now. Okay, so don't be scared. If you plug it all in, turn on the ignition, you get no humming from the throttle, you think it's dead, press the pedal first, and then you'll hear all the humming and going from there. All right. So what I'm going to do now is put my ear protectors on, because we've got no just headers on there. Okay, and I'm going to start the engine now. Hopefully you can hear me, but I'm going to go through that list exactly like we said earlier, and we're going to go one by one. So nice and simple, black with a yellow wire, 12 volts, and you'll see the LEDs are going to go off. Okay, so get my ear protectors off. Right, so I just showed you that because these are fuel pulsation dampeners. They come on a 3UZ and a 1UZ VVT-i. These are a very useful tool. You can see now the screws all the way in, but before I disconnected the fuel pump, you could see the screw was all the way raised up. So that tells you if you've got fuel pressure. It's a nice quick little thing to take a look. If you've got a problem with it running, check if you've got fuel pressure there. Obviously these are a deadhead system, so you need to regulate elsewhere. Normally in the vehicle it was regulated as part of the fuel pump system inside the tank. You can use something like that, VW Polo filter, that's got a built-in regulator, 4-bar, that works. BMW 3 Series, they've got built-in regulators into the fuel filter. Again, exactly the same principle. As long as you regulate it at some point, you should be fine. If you find that it's running and it's got black smoke and it's all rich and everything, just come over and try and squeeze that screw down. It should be about 3.5 bar, between 3.5 and 4 bar. So it sounds weird, but you should be able to gently press that screw down with your thumb. If that thing is absolutely rock solid, more than likely your return is blocked and you're getting like 8 bar pressure, and that's the reason why. So this is a very useful tool. It may seem like nothing, but it is quite useful when you're trying to diagnose weird stuff, especially when you've just done a motor swap and you're trying to figure out all the issues. So they're very, very useful to go. Right, so as you can see, we had no check engine light when she was running. She doesn't have codes for secondary lambda sensors. She doesn't have codes for the missing gearbox. Obviously we remapped the ECU, so she's got a 7,000 RPM limit now. She has got about 10% extra power. It's going to depend on your vehicle. Depends on what exhaust you're running. If you're running a restrictive exhaust, it's going to be less power. But anyway, so it's got that improved throttle response, all of that type of jazz, and the ACIS and the VVT-i is working properly even though you've removed the automatic gearbox. All right. So, like I said in the beginning, this whole setup is for sale. It's going to be on the shelf. It's going to be ready to go. We could basically supply you everything. ECU's there ready to go. We can throw a pedal in if you don't have anything. Only thing you've got to add to the mix is a mass airflow sensor. If you need help getting that, again, we can help you with that. Okay, so if anybody is interested, please get in touch with us via Facebook at Phoenix Engine Management. Otherwise, like I said, we will be putting an ad up on the page. So who's ever interested can just come through and give us a query and we'll let you know what the price is on the advert over there. All right, but thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you again later. Bye-bye.